I just came back from a very satisfying trip to North Bengal, to be specific, in the city of Kalimpong. But while I was there, I actually thought about something that has been actually pretty close to my heart for a very long time now, and that's the concept of cultural politics, or rather, the cultural politics of tourism in particular. And I think the way we usually travel, mostly middle class people, the way they would travel is, they would just go to a place and they would enjoy the scenic beauty, take pictures, and they would come back. I think it should be also about a bit of a cultural exchange and understanding the people and their culture and their daily lives, and sometimes even their struggles. I know it's a very short period for which we usually travel, maybe a week or a couple of weeks or whatever. And obviously, you're not going to do anything about, going to be able to do a lot to change the way they live or their lives, but at least getting to know about them, enriches your perspective. So you can come back as a more enriched individual. And I give three examples of this. The first one is actually a very simple example, that of littering. I think a lot of people talk about civic sense and how we Indians are not very responsible tourists. Whenever we visit a place, whether it be it in our country or some other country, we go and litter and we just spread rubbish all around. And this is exactly what I observed on this trip as well. It's such a beautiful hill station. The people have put so much effort. The people of that place have put in so much effort to keep the place clean. But despite that, it seemed that people have just stopped having that civic sense, or they probably never had it. One of the most embarrassing examples was in a monastery in Lava, where this monk actually, who was sitting in a shop and found a garbage can that was just like 2 feet away from the shop, right outside it. The whole place was so damn clean, and obviously I felt compelled to only throw away the wrappers inside the garbage can. A couple of other tourists came, ate the same cake probably, looked like that, and they threw away the wrappers right outside the shop on the pavement. And it was just shocking to see that the monk actually came out, no expression on his face, just calmly and quietly picked up those wrappers thrown by those tourists, who literally didn't take the trouble of throwing the wrappers in the garbage can that was just 2 feet away. I think this is the mindset that needs to change. And civility is really about empathy. I think I saw that in some video, some influencer was making it on Instagram, and I totally agree with that. This is something that I saw during the Indigo Airlines episode, a lot of flights getting cancelled and people getting stuck in airports. I saw so many videos of people understandably angry or disappointed or sort of frustrated at the development. But the way they reacted, and the way they had those outbursts on the ground crew, the ground staff of the airport, was unbelievable. Those were not the people responsible for this, right? And you don't vent your frustrations at the people who are probably the least paid in the entire business, in this airlines business, and who are not even directly responsible for it. They're the ones who are actually trying to handle the situation on ground zero as the crisis unfolds. And people erupted on them, vented out their entire frustration at those people, the ground staff. Some of the videos, like, there was a man who was understandably frustrated because her daughter was having periods and he couldn't provide her with new fresh sanitary pads, and that was of course incredibly frustrating. I totally understand that, and it totally makes sense to raise the demand for it and find ways to and try to see if that can be salvaged and that can be arranged for it. But to shout at the way he was doing at the ground stuff, I think that was, almost it looked like he would hit that was a lady ground stuff in question, and that just didn't make any sense to me. So again, I think we need to sometimes be aware of the difficulties of the other person, and not sometimes, in fact, all the time. I think we should be empathetic. So empathy again is so important. So again, that's part of the cultural politics or the cultural experience and the cultural exchange that he was talking about, to see things from the other person's perspective. I think traveling should ultimately have that perspective. It's not just about visiting beautiful places and coming back with some good photos to add to your album. It should also be about coming back as a more developed individual, a person with even broader thinking. The second thing that the second example that I will give here was that of the driver that on the first day of the trip, after we landed in North Bengal, who actually helped us visit the different places. So he looked to be a native of that place. He was very polite in his demeanor, but he also had a lot of grudge. And I actually encouraged him to open up about some of those grudges through conversations. And he shared a couple of things which I had partly some understanding of already, but I just wanted to see how he shared those perspectives, and I was really pleased with the kind of thinking that he had, in terms of consciousness about his fellow workers and people struggling around with their daily lives and the kind of struggles they have. So he was talking about the commissions that he had to pay to hotels or any other travel operators who would give him referrals of tourists who needed to travel to different places and use his car, or his service to take them to different places for sightseeing. And he told me that the commissions are so high that he's literally left with such a little amount of money at the end of this whole process. He also talked about tea garden workers, and again, like, I didn't know if he had any background with tea gardens, but he spoke of his compatriots working in tea gardens with so much compassion, and I was so glad to see that. He was talking about their plight, like 240 rupees a day being their income, and how that's not enough, or and if they try to do too much collective bargaining, how that could lead to even worse economic outcomes, because there could be lockdowns or complete shutdowns of the tea gardens, as we have seen happen in Bengal in recent years. So that was very eye opening. How even a person, despite having his own difficulties, is able to empathize with others as well, in somewhat similar or even somewhat difficult and different situations as well of life. So again, empathy is the word here, right? Trying to empathize with others, and that was also very eye opening. How we should also start thinking of we, and by we I mean middle class people, people with more wealth, people with more means and resources, who are traveling and sort of enjoying vacations as tourists. We should also open up our thinking and broaden our thoughts and sort of you know engage in these kinds of cultural exchanges. The third and the final thing here that I will talk about is a slightly different topic, but I think it's kind of related. And I think this is a broader political perspective. This is what requires a little bit more political awareness. And I think it's important that we start talking about it now. So you might be aware that there's actually a war going on. If we call it a war, it's probably more of a genocide, like literally murdering of civilians, that's going on in Gaza right now. Okay, and it's been perpetrated by the state of Israel, the country Israel, and its country's government, but also its citizens. A large part of its citizens, not everyone, of course. And this is a very racist, a very inhuman kind of well, any genocide is literally inhuman, of course, but this is also extremely racist, and it's targeted at all the Muslim Palestinians and pretty much any Palestinians and anyone in support of that. And now the thing that the reason why I'm actually pointing this out in this video is because there's a place in India, and there are multiple places in India, in fact, and one of them is in Dharamkot, is Dharamkot, and there are places in Himachal Pradesh and a few other places like that, which are called mini Israels. Okay, and what these places do is they attract the ITF, and which is the Israel Defense Force, I think that's what it's called. So that's absolutely the same army that's carrying out and perpetrating these war crimes in Gaza or in the West Bank and on Palestinian people. These people come to India for vacationing and as a sort of a catharsis, as a sort of a relaxation, literally killing babies in Gaza. You can just read about the number of civilians that has been killed. It's appalling, and the way this has been done, the impunity with which people are being massacred in this genocide, which is not really a war, amounts to war crime and crimes against humanity. Again, this is something much more political. I understand, but the point is that if I, for instance, were to visit these places like say Dharamkot, which is called a mini Israel or whatever, it's not that I have a problem with Israelis per se. It's not, of course, I don't have a problem with people of any country or any religion. The problem is that these are soldiers who are coming here after serving in the IDF, after committing those war crimes, after being complicit in a genocide. They're coming here to, I don't know, like cleanse their system or what. That's how it's actually projected. And I would have a problem with that. If I were there, I would probably just, confront some of them and just say, like, what the hell are you doing here? And we don't want you here, man. And if you're here, you might as well accept that these are the things that you've done and come clean with that. Don't pretend that you have been defending your country or whatever, because you're not. I mean, you literally have to just pick up your phone and see a couple of videos and you'll understand what I'm saying. So this is shameful on part of India's government that they have made this arrangement of, like encouraging these people these war criminals to come here and enjoy their stay and as if they're specially welcomed. Whereas, we have had a history as a country. We have been actually very pro-Palestine for many years, and it's only recently changed for different political reasons. Again, you don't have to be very political to oppose genocide. These are fellow people, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if you think of tourism as a cultural process, as a process of understanding, and as a process of, sort of becoming more familiar and friendlier with people of other cultures, that's when you appreciate them as fellow human beings. That's when you start appreciating their cultures and their perspectives and their struggles as well. And when I travel to different places, I also see them as fellow human beings, and I also see if there's anything bad about them, I would also see that, right? And fellow tourists. So again, like if it's Dharamkot, and I see war criminal soldiers who have perpetrated war crimes and were complicit in a genocide being there and being sort of treated like really valuable guests, I would be pretty pissed off, because that goes against this basic humanistic. It's a humanitarian. It's basically basic humanism, nothing more than that. Out of which I would be pretty pissed off at these people, but more importantly, the practice of celebrating them and calling some places mini Israels. So there could be a number of ways I could do. I could literally, while I'm on a trip, I could also write a placard and start and protesting, but I could not do that, and I could simply start writing about it and making videos about it, like I'm just doing right now. Or I could even write to the embassy, or there could be a number of ways without being very confrontational. If you're not into that kind of stuff, or if you want to play it a little safer. So, but yeah, I would definitely say that you should do something about it, because it makes no sense to sort of just stay quiet and just visit a place just for the sake of visiting it without seeing everything around it, including the people and what they stand for and their lives and yeah, how they contribute to making this world a better place. So that these are the three things that really came to my mind. I think cultural exchanges should definitely become much more mainstream when it comes to tourism. Let me know your thoughts, what you think about this perspective, if it makes any sense. And if you like the video, then do subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.